So, guess who woke up a few weeks ago and decided that one video I made a long time ago is going to be a series? Hey guys, I'm On. I want to be your friend. I'm about to talk about the new Hiropre Sky episode and all the episodes that were leading up to it. We're going to get into spoiler territory like right away. So if you have not seen the most recent episode or the show at all, I highly recommend you watch it before watching this video. Spoiler wall will be knocked down in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I know that this is technically not the ending of the second arc because Baramonda was not defeated and the king and queen still need to be saved. The reason why I'm making this video now is because considering the technical build-up and the way that this episode ended, I decided I'm going to make this video now instead of waiting another week to see how all of that will be resolved, because we already got a description for episode 24, I think it is, and we got an announcement of a new villain coming to the show, and with Sora saying that it doesn't make a difference whether or not Baramonda comes back. I think this is clearly the ending of the arc, and episode 24 is just going to be leeway into arc number 3 instead of it being the official conclusion. I don't know, maybe next week I'll be proven wrong, but I'm going to talk about this arc now because it feels like it's reached its conclusion at that point. Alright, now let's start actually talking about this arc, starting with what I like. The introduction to Skyland, like actually bringing the characters in there and not just seeing it in the beginning and then wondering when they're going to come back. In terms of Precure standards, they brought them into, I guess, fairyland. I don't know, there's gotta be I'm sure there's a word for this, but you know, the land where the fairies are from. They brought them into their fairyland pretty early in the series, in terms of this franchise. And you know, I don't hate it. I'm really happy that we got to see it this early instead of waiting until like episode 26. And I know we're going to see more of it in episode 24. So that was really nice. I was really happy that we got to see Skyland this early. I thought it was really nice that they allowed the show to breathe a little bit more, especially after the intensity that was episode 16. It was 15. It was 15. After the intensity that was episode 15, I'm really happy that they allowed the show to breathe a little bit, but they didn't just like forget everything that happened. They decided to spend the next episode dedicating their time to cheering up Ellie. And I also like that they took a little bit of break from the plot to have a more slice of life episode between 12 and 14. The plot honestly was not that necessary. I know we're not talking about the negatives right now, but considering that we're probably never going to see that woman again, it feels like the plot could have been a little bit different, but you know, it was nice to have it either way. Mashiro wasn't necessarily my favorite character at the beginning of the series, and she has gotten so much better since episode 1. They're actually exploring her internal conflicts. They're addressing any problems that I initially had with this character. And it's really nice to see that she's actually figuring out what she wants to do. I'm really happy that they're doing more with her character instead of just having her be stoic, because that has been a problem in the past. And I'm really happy that they're doing more with her than what they did with other characters that are like her. In this episode, they actually addressed Sora's fatal flaw. I recognize that was her fatal flaw earlier on. They addressed it this episode. I don't think she's overcome it, but I'm glad that they recognized, hey, this is actually a thing. And hopefully that'll be a thing that they continue to address in future episodes. Along with that, this show is really good at addressing previous conflicts. I'm thinking about something that the show has not addressed again. It's just like, oh, why aren't we seeing Tsubasa studying? And then boom, we got an episode about Tsubasa wanting to study. Oh, we haven't really seen too much of Mashiro. And then boom, we get an episode exploring her character more. Oh, these characters don't go to school that much. And then literally in this episode, we see Mashiro at school. It is the fun. It's like they read my mind. It's just like, wait a minute, they haven't done this recently, and then they do it, and I think that's absolutely hilarious. This is more of a small thing, but Ageha is having a lot more childish traits for her age, and I love that for her. I like that there's layers to the lore that was presented, and they're not just giving it to you in one fistful and then they're gonna work with it from then on. No, there's like an actual mystery going on, and they're giving that to you in bits and pieces instead of just giving you the answer straight out. We haven't gotten much scenes of Sora's dad, but from just this episode alone, he was already shown to be a great character. I love it when Precure gives us great dad characters. The transformation music in this episode being changed to fit the tone instead of the really cheery stuff. It's just like, you know, stuff is going down when they change the music. I kind of wish it was full transformation instead of just them calling out their transformation phase and then we fade into them saying their phrases. But, you know, they had other stuff that they wanted to focus on, so I guess it's fine. On that note, the entire music for not just this arc, but the show is really great. And I can't believe I have to wait until like around September in order to get the second half of the OST. Or maybe it's October, I can't remember, but either way, I have to wait a couple weeks in order to get it on digital, and it sucks, but the music is really great. The animation for the fight scenes in episode 19 and 23 are so good. Oh my god. It's like they realized that, hey, maybe if this episode is going to introduce a new concept or be really important, we should put more budget into the animation. And they did. And I love it. I'm really happy that they put more time and care into making those scenes look good. Dear Shine Sky was a pretty nice introduction. It had a pretty nice introduction. I was a little bit surprised by how early it came in, but considering the ending of the episode it was introduced in, I actually really appreciate that they brought it in early. Dear Shine Sky is not my favorite, but it looks really nice and it sounds really good. Alright, so now for my problems with this arc and episode. I'm gonna get this out of the way. Batamonda sucks. And I know what everybody's thinking. Yeah, he does suck. He did something bad like 2 episodes ago. He's the villain. I don't care that he did something bad, because at least he's fulfilling his role. That scene in episode 22 actually made me happy, because that was the first time he did something intimidating in like 5 episodes. I'm not gonna go into every single reason why I don't like Batamonda, because that would honestly just take up most of this video. I'm just going to summarize by saying he is genuinely the worst written character on this show so far. This is much smaller, but I think it's important to point out they don't say it's hero time anymore. I don't know why. That line's kind of important. You'd think that they say it more in the series, but they're not saying it as much. Sora and Mashiro have a really weird level of entertainment when it comes to B-plots. When there are B-plots or smaller plots, they usually take a back seat. And when they aren't in the front seat, they aren't that entertaining. I mean, the episode about Mashiro writing was kind of nice. Episode 13 was not that good. The relay race one honestly wasn't that good either. I don't know, because like when it comes to those plots, Tsubasa and Ageha are a lot more interesting. They've also been shown to stand out on their own, not just in subplots. Like they can stand out when they're fighting. They're shown to be really compelling when it comes to the main plots as well. So like I don't understand what's going on with Sora and Mashiro, because they are treated more as the main characters, and I don't understand why they don't feel like they're that great to watch compared to the characters that are arguably more support. I know I laughed this off earlier, but I'm being serious. These kids never go to school. It's really weird. We got like 3 or 4 episodes with Sora and Mashiro shown in school, not just with their uniforms. Tsubasa doesn't go to school for some reason, even though from my understanding on how the Japanese education system works, Tsubasa should be able to go to school with Sora and Mashiro. Like, you could say, oh, he doesn't want to, but that doesn't make any sense because he thrives on intelligence. He likes to do research, so why wouldn't he want to go to school? And then there's Ageha. I know that she's a college student, so she can't interact with Sora, Mashiro, and Tsubasa the same way that she could if she was in school. It's so weird because the only time we see her doing something related to school is like on a tablet, but she's always on a tablet. She's either using the mirror pad or something else. And then her friends have to remind her to do her work, which, I mean, like, I know that's her character, but that's still a little weird. We don't actually see the college that she goes to, and then she has 2 jobs. I know the nursing school is a practicum, but what Ageha had to do before starting it is weird considering Japan's college education period starts in April and she's asking for information on the school she should have been accepted to in March. And I know that like these are more plot focused and whatnot, but school is really important to this franchise. This isn't an opinion, this is a fact. Like, this is something that they prided themselves on back in season 1. So I just find it a little bit weird considering the fact that they're acknowledging, hey, these characters go to school and then we never see them go to school. And just to make sure I'm not crazy, I went back to a season that has like 7 main characters, and that's Yes Precure 5. They were seen at the school for at least 30 episodes, give or take. You could argue that like it's just because it's a different tone or whatnot, but there's still slice of life, and it still took them like 12 episodes before they decided not to show the girls in school. So it's so weird that we are currently 23 episodes in and we only seen the characters go to school like 4 times. Like, I get it, the plot is trying to focus on something else, but they still need to go to school. So what's up with that? All right, I know I've been talking about a lot of smaller things, but this one is genuinely important. This episode ruins the episode that came before it, and I personally don't think it was that good in the first place. So the fact that this episode made that one worse is not a good thing. In episode 22, it was established that attempting to purify Shalala's Ramborg could kill her if they're not careful. This led to Sora giving up while the rest of her team was trying to come up with a solution to the problem. And then that leads into episode 23, this episode, where the remaining members of the team decide to try and solve the problem while Sora is reminiscing on the events of the earlier episode and everything that led her up to that point, which is great. I think everything about that was well written, but they established that they need to be careful when fighting this Ramborg, and yet the minute we get into the fight, Tsubasa decides to use wing attack, which could have potentially killed her. Butterfly decides to use butterfly press, which could have potentially killed her. And then Sora, when she comes back, decides to use Sky Punch, which could have potentially killed her. You see the problem here? I know what people are going to say. Oh, she had extra power. Badamonde gave her extra power, so it's okay. The thing is, none of those characters knew that fact until afterwards. And Sora, I don't even think she knew at all. So if the whole reason this episode is happening was because they were afraid to hurt her, why are they not hesitating to do something that would potentially hurt the person that they're trying to save? Along with that, in the earlier episode, they didn't use Titanic Rainbow Explosion. I think that's what it's called, because it was established that, hey, purification might hurt this girl. which I can excuse for Titanic Rainbow Explosion because we have no reason to believe that that wouldn't hurt her. It looked like it was used as an object of destruction, especially with the name Titanic Rainbow Explosion. But do you want to know what could have worked? Do you want to know what was used against a living being before? Updraft Shining against Kabaton. The only thing that it did was take away the undergoo energy that Kabaton put inside of himself. Kabaton was fine. People could probably argue, well, we don't know if that would kill her. But in this very episode, it took a few seconds before Butterfly healed her. And that was after Updraft Shining. So Updraft Shining wouldn't have killed Shalala. It would have been fine. We don't know how long Shalala could have survived, but it's clear that she could survive for at least a few seconds before needing to get immediate treatment, as established by this episode. And what bothers me even more is that the only person who humored Updraft Shining was Badamonda, who has no reason to believe that wouldn't work. He's just being cocky. I'm actually surprised that Mashiro didn't humor that idea, because Mashiro was established to be a pretty good fighter under pressure. She thinks well and fast under pressure. So why didn't she suggest that? Why did Butterfly and Wing suggest an attack that was honestly starting to get tired? The point I'm trying to make here is that the stakes were the same, but that affected the characterization. If the stakes were the same, why were the characters acting worried in one episode and then not hesitating to attack the same thing they were afraid to hurt without like any transition into that whatsoever? It doesn't make sense for Wing, it doesn't make sense for Butterfly, and it definitely doesn't make sense for Sky. I know why she decided to become Pure Sky again, but just because she was more willing to fight this episode does not mean she shouldn't have been careful. I really like this episode, and the last thing I want to do is hate on it. But if you have to either change or reestablish the context in order for the actions of the characters to make sense, there is a problem there. In comparison to episode 12, I do think this conclusion was better, and I enjoyed it a lot more, but it was not without its problems, and this arc was not without its problems. Just because we enjoy the series does not mean we should not be critical about the way the writing or any other element of the show is being handled. But those were my thoughts on the second arc of Hirogaru Sky. I'm sure that you all have your own. Feel free to share them down below. Follow me on social media. Anyway, guys, if you like this video or you like what I do, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, share. I don't even care. Until next time, bye-bye.